welcome to this week's episode of I Didn't Sign Up for This. My name is Kaitlyn, and I am your host. I am here with Cody, and today is the first day back from vacation. We just got back from Cancun last night and thought we would hop on and record an episode that we have no outline for. We're not prepared for in any way.
Just wing it like we do everything else.
Yeah, basically. I feel like usually I'm a little bit more prepared than I am now, but I was like, Daphne's at preschool right now, and she's only there for like a couple hours, and she's our 4-year-old. If you guys don't already know, because I don't know. Okay, it doesn't matter. There I go. There goes my ADHD.
Get the script.
But yeah, I was like, we have to record as soon as we drop her off because we got to record this and submit it. But I don't really know what way we should we just like talk about the trip first, or should we talk about the other thing we were gonna talk about on this episode first?
It's your thing. We can talk about the trip.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the trip. So how did you think the trip went? Well, we'll give some background just in case some people don't really follow me on social. We just got back from a trip without our kids. This is the first trip that we have gone on without our kids. The first trip that we've gone on, just us, since we got married over 12 years ago. We've gone on trips before, but they're always with other people. With my family, we've gone on some trips with your family. Since we've had kids, we've never taken a trip without our children. I think we had like 1, maybe 2 overnights on an anniversary, but it wasn't even like a full 24 hours. And it was like locally here in Utah. And so like this was the first time we ever went on a trip. Just us since being parents.
Yeah, basically, I was actually talking to a friend today, and remember we went to Denver for a couple Rockies games a long time ago.
Yeah, right after we got married, like the year after we got married.
Yeah, but I think also...
but my dad was there.
Yeah, your dad. Yeah. He was like going through his... yeah. And he's like, hey, can I go with you guys?
Yeah.
And then he just popped down.
Yeah.
As well. So
was it just him, or was he was Marlene go?
No, he was split.
Yeah.
That's when we go to Sizzler a lot.
Yeah. I know, I miss those days. Yeah, we just haven't gone on like any trip. But so like that didn't count. It wasn't even just us. But yeah, so we haven't gone on. So our honeymoon over 12 years ago was the last time it was just a trip with us. So a couple months ago, I've been doing like a lot of traveling for work, more than I've ever done like in my whole life this last year. And Cody was like, why don't we go on a trip? Because you're always going on trips with like your Instagram friends and have some like work trips. Last year I did. And then this next year planning on like a couple work trips. And he was like, why don't we go on a trip? And I'm like, oh yeah, we can go on a trip. Let's do it.
Like it just occurred to you?
Well, I don't know. Like we had never really, the thing is like we never really prioritized trips before, because I feel like when we first got married, I feel like we would just like go on trips with like my family, and like that felt sufficient. And then when we had Harper, we were living with my mom. I was working part-time and you were a student. So like we didn't have a lot of money. And so, yeah. And then we had a baby, and I would really struggle with anxiety, and I didn't really feel comfortable like leaving my baby. Well, and my mom couldn't have even watched her at the time because my mom was working full time. So it's not like my mom could have watched her or like our kids until really like this last year when she retired. Anyway, we didn't prioritize it because of money mainly, I feel like. And then when we both were working full time, and we moved into our home, that's when COVID happened. And then after COVID started kind of calming down, you got laid off from your job. Mm-hmm. And you were unemployed for like 6 months. And then I think things just got like really bad in our relationship. And it was like, I don't know. So like, we just didn't prioritize it, you know? And like looking back, I feel like we could have made something work, you know, financially. Like we just always kind of made the excuse that like, oh, our money is better spent somewhere else. Like, why would we spend thousands of dollars on like a trip when like we do go on trips with my family? Like we go on like quite a bit of trips, and usually like there's been times like when money's been really tight, like my dad will like help us out. because we'll be like, we can't afford that, and he'll like help us so we can, it's like more affordable for us. And so I was just like, oh, that's sufficient. But like, it's not. It's different going on a trip just with your partner and not having anyone else there, like no family, no kids, nothing. That's like a big regret that I have. We should have prioritized that and like somehow made it work.
Yeah, and we discussed that too on this trip, that we want to start planning something, once a year.
Yeah.
Where we get out. And I think this was a good first trip to go on without kids. It was like relatively short.
Yeah.
And we have people in our families that will help with the kids and stuff like that. But I just, was shocked at how great it was for our relationship, and just like to be, personally and relationship wise, it was great. And, I'm kind of shocked that we just didn't do it sooner.
Yeah.
I think it could have helped a lot of things and put things into perspective if we had prioritized that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like one of my biggest regrets, is just like not prioritizing the relationship and always just thinking like it's a stage, or we don't have the money, and even like when money was like more tight, like we didn't have to go on, like we didn't have to fly to Mexico. Like you don't have to go to on like a trip at a resort and like spend a lot of money. Like we could have done it in a different way where it was like a weekend, not just one overnight, but like an actual like weekend, something like that that's more affordable. And there's just things that we could have done, but we always just had an excuse. So yeah, so we went to Cancun for 4 days, and my biggest regret with the trip was just that it wasn't longer. I don't feel like 4 days just like didn't seem like enough, but we wanted it short for a couple of reasons.
Yeah, I think we were even talking about it down there, like, hey, maybe we just do one more day.
Yeah.
And then we started looking at the weather, and I think the weather was supposed to be a little rainy. So,
well, and then the cost to change the flight was like pretty, pretty expensive.
And then I don't think we would have been able to stay in the same room we were in. So we would have had to move rooms, and it was just like a big deal. So, but I thought, it was great. If it would have been nice if it was a little longer, but
yeah,
I really don't have any complaints about it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people were asking, and I'm going to post a story sometime this week. I don't think today, because I'm just playing catch up. But we stayed at an all-inclusive resort. Live Aqua is where we stayed, just right on the beach in Cancun. And then we mostly stayed at the resort. There was one day that we went to Xcaret. And it was okay. Xcaret was okay, but we wish we would have just, like, the beach was the best, and the pool, and just like hanging out. You loved the water.
Yeah. Yeah, Xcaret was cool. It was cool to experience, but I think if I had to do it all over again, and nothing against it, I mean, it was amazing, beautiful. The animals they had there, just, it was a beautiful place to go. But you spend about an hour and a half going down there, hour and a half coming back. So you're at 3 hours just commuting time, and then you could either come back at what was it, like 5 or 10.
Oh yeah. 4 or 10.
Yeah, so we didn't fully maximize the place, but we didn't want to stay there and then be back by like midnight. And
I know,
because we're old people and we like watching Law and Order and going to sleep at a reasonable hour, even on vacation.
I know, it's so funny because it's like they have things going on at the resort, at the bars, and dancing and karaoke and singing, like all these activities. It's really fun, and we're like, we would rather just go to dinner, like a nice dinner, maybe walk on the beach at night, look at the stars for like 20 minutes, and then go upstairs and watch a TV show and go to bed early.
Yeah, and we had that big jacuzzi in our room.
I know, we didn't even use it.
No, and that was like the benefit of that room, right? It was like the same room as like any other room. It just
It was
had
bigger
like,
though, yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, the jacuzzi was like definitely an upsell. We didn't even use it.
Yeah, and I think one night, we started filling it up, and we're like, let's just go out or do something. And then another night we actually like filled it like all the way up, and we're like, we are freaking tired.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it took forever to fill up, and then because it was a jacuzzi like inside the room. It's not like a hot tub. This is like a jacuzzi inside the room, and it just like took forever to fill the whole thing up. But they have like someone that's like an assistant, yeah, that can set that up, and we just weren't prepared. Like we just weren't good plans. They were like, oh, just let us know like if you want us to do it and what time, and we were just in full vacation mode where we didn't want to have a plan. We didn't want an itinerary. We wanted to do what we wanted to in the moment. There was even a couple yoga classes like in the morning. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to wake up. And they were only at 9. It's not like it was super early. I'm like, yep, I'm going to go to those. That's going to be great. And then, like, really when it came down to it, I'm like, no, you know what? This is like a trip and I don't want to live by an itinerary. Like, if I feel like going in the moment, I'll go. But if not, I'm not going to.
well, I was really impressed with you on this trip too, because you're a person who likes to have like a structure and like set. And like, even when we've gone on trips in the past, you kind of like being like, hey, we're going to go do this, we're going to do that. And
What's
just
the
having
anxiety?
Yeah, and on this one you were just like chill. You were just like going with it. And like I'm a total like go with the flow type person.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it like balances, like we balance each other out, because you get me to do stuff and then I get you to relax more, and chill out. So we see like the best of both worlds. And this trip was like the perfect balance. We went to Escaret and then we had like chill days on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your sobriety on the trip? Because this is really, it's not the first trip you've gone on since being sober, but
it's the hardest.
Do you want to talk about that or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. How was it? This was an all-inclusive resort. So like alcohol's flowing. We're in Mexico at the beach, the way that we used to travel before and the way that we used to vacation before was maybe a little wild. So how was it?
Yeah, it's hard. As soon as you get off the plane, and I knew it was going to be difficult, just based off of like going to Mexico in the past, like how much I would drink and like party and stuff. And, you get off the plane and, people are trying to get you to like, there's like bars, you have to walk through bars to get to your car. People are offering you like free tequila shots, and then you get to your car and he's like, hey, do you want a beer? Do you want like some tequila? And I'm like, no. And also like, I never expect you to not drink. Like if you want to drink or have drinks with dinner or whenever, like I never tell you like, this isn't the type of relationship where I'm like, hey, you have to be sober. You can't drink. Like I understand it's my problem, and anyone I'm around, like they can do it. I just have to remove myself from that situation if it's bad for me.
Yeah.
But
you hold it together like really well, because there was times that I was drinking on the trip. Like where I'd have some wine at dinner, or like I had like a margarita at the beach. But I would ask you before, like, is this okay?
and just
and
so
I feel
anyone's
like,
listening, like she doesn't need my permission to do it. And I think like you don't need my permission to do it. I think you're being sensitive to like, my situation.
I think people would be surprised to know that I still drink alcohol very occasionally. It's like I don't drink it very often, even at home. Like the only time I ever do, I feel like is if I like go out to dinner with a girlfriend. Like I very almost like we don't have it in our home. But I think people would be surprised to know that I still drink alcohol occasionally around you. I think that's going to shock people.
Yeah. And, I understand that it's my issue that I'm dealing with. Like I'm the one that has an issue with it. You're on vacation. Like I'm not going to like be complaining about you having like drinks, but it's just hard because like you're at an all-inclusive resort. Everyone around you is drinking. When you're at the beach and they come up and ask what drinks you want, like you would order a drink and then they ask me what I want. And I'm like, oh, just like, like I don't drink soda like ever. And I drank so much soda down there. I ate so much candy down there, and it was just like, get me through. But I'm like, can I just get like a Coke? And he's like, yeah, you want some rum in it?
I feel like that happened a lot at the very beginning of the trip. And then for some reason, like it seems like halfway through the trip, like people stopped really offering for some reason.
Yeah.
Like you would order an iced tea and they'd just be like, okay.
Yeah. There were times like at dinner, like when you would order a drink and then like I would just say, hey, I want like an iced tea, or, I'm fine with water or whatever. And then they would say, oh, are you sure? Do you want this? Do you want that? And it's just kind of an awkward position to be in too. So not be like, hey, no, I don't drink, or There was a night, the one that kind of bothered me was the night that we went to like that nice dinner, like our date night. And, you know, they asked you what you wanted and you said you wanted wine. And they asked me like, do you want wine? And you said, no, he doesn't drink. And then he like made this big deal like, oh, well, she's your boss, you know, which kind of like bothered me, you know, that, and maybe it's like an insecurity or something. I don't know, but
maybe it's because I said it for you, because I know that you kind of feel, you know, uncomfortable like
the silent
saying
sufferer,
that. Like
yeah.
you usually don't say anything to people like, oh, I'm sober, or like I don't drink, or, and so I felt like it would help like if, you know, our waiter knew like you don't drink, so he wouldn't continue to like offer, you know, like a drink with dessert or, you know, like whatever. I don't know. So I thought it would help, but maybe that just like, yeah. And I don't think he like meant anything by it. I just think that most people, when they go down to Mexico and they're at an all inclusive resort, like they're drinking like all day, you know, and that's kind of like the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, where do sober people vacation? Do they still go to those resort? Like, I'm curious because I don't know.
Sober is short for so boring.
No,
You know?
I don't think so at all, because I feel like we were fully able to enjoy our vacation because we didn't feel like shit.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I brought that up to you. Like, you know, I've been sober for, you know, like almost a year and a half now. And I've just been consistent the whole time, you know. I know what to expect every day for myself. Yeah. Like I don't feel like shit ever. There was a point where my drinking was like so bad, like I was just like putting off the inevitable hangover, you know. And then Annie sent that thing about, you know, the study about how long it takes you to recover from drinking, you know, and it takes days. Well, it was like a study where, you know, it takes like up to 5 days for you to fully recover from like a night of like drinking,
even like 2 drinks. That's what it said. Like the study was like, if you have 2 or more drinks, it takes 5 days for you to recover, like your brain and your body to fully recover.
Yeah. And you're not fully yourself for those days. And, you know, if you drink and then you don't drink for a couple of days and you drink, the clock resets, you know? So I don't think I've fully been myself for like over a decade, you know? So this last year and a half, like I've fully unapologetically been myself, which is refreshing and which is nice. And I'm sure it's nice for you too, because you know what to expect from me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm present, I'm available, I'm the same, you know?
Yeah.
But I do notice like how much we romanticize drinking. Like, hey, like I want to have a drink on the beach, like how romantic, or have a glass of wine with dinner. And, you know, and I just don't like need that. And I don't judge anyone that does that. You know, if you want to drink or whatever, like I think it's cool. Like if you can handle it and take care of it. I mean, that just wasn't in the cards for me.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, society definitely romanticizes alcohol. Like, not, I almost said alcoholism. They don't romanticize alcoholism, but society definitely romanticizes drinking, and having a glass of champagne or having a glass of wine with dinner, or drinking a margarita on the beach. And it's just, it makes it seem like it kind of elevates your experience, and it can, I feel like, but also it very easily can just kind of spiral out of control. I mean, people who are going down to those all-inclusive resorts, like, I mean, when, like, we lived this life for a long time. I mean, you're binge drinking. Like, it's not like you're not just having a glass of wine at dinner. You're not just having one margarita on the beach or like one pina colada. You're drinking 5 or 6, you know, if you're on vacation. The resort that we were at too was adults only. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm like trying to say. I think it was still very calm. Like there wasn't any like incidences or anything, or I was like, whoa, those people are like drinking a lot. But like that's just kind of what you do when you go down on those trips, is like people just kind of like drink. And it's interesting because my family obviously is like I grew up Mormon, and Mormons don't drink alcohol. So I didn't grow up seeing, like, my parents never drank alcohol. So I didn't see that. And we would go on like beach vacations. And, you know, I think that my parents, they would just offer, and my parents would be like, no, we're Mormon, or like, we don't drink. And that was like the end of it. But like, we would continue to go on these trips. It was like never a thing, but we were obviously like around it, you know, as kids, but like our parents weren't indulging in that. And so I don't know. I don't know what I'm like trying to say exactly, but
no. And I grew up, you know, my mom's side of the family's LDS, so they don't drink. My dad's side's Catholic, and you know, Catholics like to indulge.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't grow up in a household. I grew up in a household where, you know, drinking was commonplace. You know, and it was in excess
Yeah.
in my upbringing. Your followers might not know. My dad died when I was 16. He died from cirrhosis, so he was an alcoholic like his whole life. You know, and I always thought I had it under control. Like it was great, fine. We'd go on our trips. Like it was fun. There were times where we had like a lot of fun where we were drinking, but there were a lot of times where we did not have fun.
I would say that like maybe before we had kids, but once we had kids, it's like you can't drink like that on these, you know, beach vacations, and
or when we went to
because you have children to take care of, and so it's just got to be careful, you know.
Yeah, or we like that time we went down to Mexico and like our drinks were like spiked with something. We had like one drink and we like, blacked out.
I know. That was before we had kids, but still, like, we only had the one drink, and it's like we totally blacked out. It's like, what happened?
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's like getting off topic, but you know, it was very difficult, and like you were very nice about everything. Like, hey, how you doing? Like, are you good? I mean, there were times where you could tell like it was like a little hard for me, not you drinking, but just like the setting in general. Yeah. And you're like, hey, like I'll just like drink like water with you. I'll drink iced tea. I'll drink Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like very nice, like in some of those times, because I'd never expect you to do that. But like it's nice when you do that, like it's like a show of solidarity. You know, like, hey, I'm here, I see you. And I want to thank like your followers that like reached out to you and like, you know, were with like very encouraging words about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel like lame and it's like hard. You know?
The number of people who are sober is astonishing. I don't think people don't talk about this enough. I think that there is so much shame around alcoholism or like substance abuse, or like, you know, there's like this whole sober curious movement kind of that's just like a buzzword on social media where people are like, I mean, they're like, I wasn't an alcoholic, I just wanted to be sober. I like kind of wonder in the back of my mind, I'm like, are they just saying that? Are they trying to like water down like the problem that they had because there is so much shame? I don't know. It doesn't matter really. But like, I think that there is just so much shame around excessive drinking that people don't talk about it because there's just that shame. But the number of people that have reached out to me, the number of big creators like have hundreds of thousands of followers on social media who have reached out to me and they're like, I'm, you know, whatever, 15 months sober, or like, and I'm like, I had no idea, you know, there are so many people who are living the same life as you and are on like a sober journey. But people don't talk about it enough. And I think a lot of people get triggered too, because it sometimes feels like if you talk about this, or you talk about how easily drinking can turn problematic, there are some people who get triggered by that and think that you're calling them an alcoholic or that they have a problem. It's like, that's not what we're saying. We're just like the whole mommy wine culture. I always have to like be careful because like, you know, I get it. There's like this whole thing, but it's also like pretty toxic, and I'm not like judging anyone, but at the same time, it's like, maybe we should like really like think about the way that we're like presenting information about drinking, because like, it's not okay to use it as an outlet because it's very easy to like have it turn into that. And I think it's just getting worse and worse as as time goes on. We're obviously living in like very stressful times, and it's easy to like kind of rely on that.
When I think people joke about it a lot too, like, oh, I need a drink, you know, I need 2 drinks, like whatever, I need a glass of wine, you know. And I mean, it is funny to be like, oh man, my kids are pissing me off, like I need a drink, you know. It's like a funny thing to say, but you know, we get so reliant on it, at least I did. And you know, it was like a nice way to not feel and not deal with like the stress of life. And I know this isn't like a podcast about like my experience and like my alcoholism and stuff, but you know, I mean, I have a bunch to say on the matter. But as far as the trip's concerned, you know, it was hard. It was harder than I thought it was going to be, but you know, I made it through, and I wasn't like contemplating drinking or sneaking it, or like,
I'm really proud of you,
or like being like, hey, would you be all right if I just had a drink while we're on vacation? Like it wasn't, the thought never really occurred to me while we were there.
Yeah, someone asked, I think we put this on stories, but like someone asked like what makes you like keep going like with your sobriety or something.
I think just knowing like this life that I have now with you and with the kids and with Tulo, and just like our life is just really good.
Yeah.
You know? And outside of that, like with my career is great. And just like the stability that I feel, you know? It sounds dumb, but just like having like kind of just a normal mundane life like keeps me going.
Yeah. I actually like that too. I prefer that.
Yeah. So like, you know, I know that if I drank that I would lose all this, and I worked way too fucking hard
Yeah.
to like lose this
Yeah.
for like a moment of just like, you know, catching a buzz.
Yeah.
And letting the waves, you know,
Yeah.
crash over my body.
What I guess we'll say like there were like some situations, 'cause I know a lot of people like will reach out to me and like ask about sobriety and like things you've done on trips and or like what we did on the trip to kind of help that. And I think one thing, there was one time where we got a cabana and they were the host was booked it for like the party area of the pool, and we just asked them to move us to a more quiet area, you know, because like situations like that or could be like triggering. Anything else that you did to kind of help curb that temptation?
I think just also going into the trip with the right expectations, you know,
Yeah.
like you have to understand that like people are going to be drinking, like people are going to be going crazy, and, you know, just the environment is going to be offered to you a lot. So I knew that going in. It doesn't mean it was like easier, but
Yeah.
I knew going in that it was going to be hard. It was going to be, I think it's like my first true like hard test.
Yeah.
Our cruise that we went on, our Europe trip, you know, there were times that were hard where like everybody at the table was drinking except me, and I like had to get up and like walk away, you know.
But it's also like a different type of vacation because it's not like that type of vacation because of where we were. You know, we were up in Europe. We weren't down in like the Caribbean or anything. Right. Like it's not, that wasn't like the vibe of the trip. Like there are definitely moments, but I think that, yeah, the Mexico vacation, I mean, is harder because like alcohol's in your face literally 24/7, whereas you're up in Europe, it's there, but it's not like that's what everyone's doing all day.
Well, I've been hesitant to like talk about this, and it's something that you know that nobody else knows. But so what happened in Paris? I'll just talk about Paris.
You don't have to.
Well, it's fine because like some people have asked us like, hey, why don't you get like a mocktail or something without alcohol?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I've tried that before, and one, it's hard because like you're drinking something that you enjoy drinking while you were still drinking alcohol. But when we were in Paris, they, you know, Kaitlyn ordered her drink, and I'm like, oh, they had like a mocktail section, you know, sans alcool. And there was one that sounded good. It was like this spicy one, and so they brought that out, and I drank it, and you know, I kind of thought like this kind of tastes like, you know, you can't like taste a lot of alcohol, but like it kind of felt weird. And they came back out and they said that the one they gave to you was the one with no alcohol, and the one they gave to me had alcohol in it.
Yeah.
And I drank the whole thing, but it was at like a fancy restaurant. It had a massive ice cube. There wasn't a whole lot of drink in it, but like,
well, and there's just like a huge language barrier at this restaurant. Like they didn't speak the greatest English. The menu wasn't in English, and so we were like translating, and so we didn't really know what we were like ordering slash like we did, but like yeah, we just and like the person who brought us the drinks was not our waiter, it was a bartender, and like he came out and he spoke like zero English, and so he just like handed us the drinks, and we just made the assumption that like the drink that they put in front of us is like the drink that we ordered.
Right.
Yeah. And
yeah, so that's why, like, you know, and I had this whole dilemma with it, like, oh my God, I just like broke my sobriety.
Yeah,
and,
it was horrible.
You know, which I don't consider that breaking my sobriety. I didn't know.
Yeah, no. Well, you
I
thought that in the moment, like it was, yeah, it was like really bad. Because once we found out, like I started crying, and the waiter was like so uncomfortable, and the waiter, you could tell the waiter was just like,
she freaked out.
yeah. And they really need to be careful with that. Was like their fault. Like, what if someone was pregnant or something?
Yeah.
Or like allergic to like there's people who like are allergic to certain things in alcohol. Like they really, that was very negligent on their part.
I love how protective of my sobriety you are.
Well, I was just devastated. Well, and then I also felt guilty too because I'm like, I shouldn't even be like drinking any alcohol. Like, even if it was just that one drink, like at dinner to like elevate that experience. And, I just had that moment where I was like, I can't order like cocktails. I can't order like drinks. Like so I felt a lot of guilt as well in that moment. And I know it wasn't like breaking your sobriety because you didn't intentionally do it, but I know that you felt that way initially. And we had to like really talk through that and like reassure it's like, it's not breaking your sobriety, and no one would consider that breaking it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to use that as an example, because a few people reached out when we were in Mexico and were like, hey, why don't you try like stuff without alcohol in it, or like a mocktail? And that's the reason I don't drink that stuff. One, because, it's something that I drank before when I was still drinking alcohol. And, you kind of like...
Yeah, it can associate like in your brain, like trigger that. Yeah.
And then two, like if they bring me something, that has alcohol in it. So I just like safe, like iced tea or water, or like I drink a bunch of freaking soda out there.
Yeah, soda. And I feel like I was just gonna say, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you would, we just ate a lot of food down there, so maybe that's like our new drug of choice, is just indulging in dessert. And
yeah, like I'm not like
but I also did it too, just because I love food in general.
I'm not like a dessert person,
I know.
either. And I'm like, well, these three
let's order
desserts
3
sound
desserts.
Good. Yeah, these 3 desserts sound good, so let's order all of them. And there were times like one thing I loved drinking down there was those tequila sunrises.
Oh,
and that's why I like wanted you to get one.
Yeah,
like you could drink it for me. Yeah, which sounds...
man, I really hope people don't come for me and they're like,
no, because 100%, like I never asked you to not drink. I never expected you.
I know, but I would stop.
I know you would. You offered that, and I said no. Like,
I know.
I want you to be able, because you don't have a problem with it. Like,
well, and it's not like I was drinking the whole. I wasn't like drinking the whole trip or anything. Like I had like a couple drinks and like that was it, and then like some wine at night, and that was it.
You're the most frustrating type of person in that you can have like one drink, like at noon, and like not drink anymore. Like that's so frustrating to me, like because I could have never done that.
Yeah.
So like you could have a drink and then just be like done. So
I don't really like the way that alcohol makes me feel.
Yeah. Well, if any of you motherfuckers come for Kaitlyn, we're gonna have words, because she's been nothing but great about it, and it's something that we talked about even before we got back together. Like how does this like work? In our relationship. I never expect you to quit drinking. I like that, you can go out and like have a drink or two or whatever.
Just the amount of self-control that you have though too, because I'm not the only one. Obviously, like you have gone to like work events and like some of your family drinks, like when you went to visit your brother in Florida, and like if you go golfing, and like some of my family that you like to hang out with, like they like to drink. And so it's like, it's just so tricky because when you get sober, like you have to learn how to be in environments where drinking is still happening, because you can't just expect everyone to just stop. Even if it was like, I would stop for you because I'm your partner. But you're not going to like go to a family event and like expect like your brother and like my brother and, your friends to just like not have a drink like that. You probably wouldn't want that, because and like when we went to my friend's party and like there was drinking going on, and you know what I mean? Like those things are still going to happen. And so you have to learn how to exist in those to some capacity. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like exposure therapy, right?
Yeah.
You just like expose yourself to
a little bit
so much, like lay in a bed of snakes until you're not afraid of snakes anymore, situation. But
that also doesn't mean you like go out to the bars and you're just like the only sober person. Like it's just like more like if you're going to a Christmas party, like that there's gonna be people who are drinking, and like you have to at some point like learn how to be in that environment. I think that's really hard too.
Yeah, the only thing that's really hard for me is like seeing people hammering shots back and stuff. And then when people start acting like really drunk, it's hard to be around that, because like I think, I just feel like annoyed by the situation. Like if someone's being like all like belligerent and stuff, like that doesn't make me want to drink. I'm just like annoyed by it, and then
seeing like grown ass people just like acting like children and just acting like obviously like drunk is like, I don't know, it just hits different.
If you can handle it too and like be good, like more power to you. And like I I don't judge anybody for drinking.
Yeah.
Like even alcoholics, like it's your life. Like do whatever you want with your life. Like this is my life. I have to live it. People around me like have the consequences of like my actions as well too. So like, you know, I'm not only responsible to myself, I'm responsible to you. I'm responsible to the kids. I'm responsible to like, you know, this life that I've built. And, you know, I think it's just reminding myself that, you know, do you want this life that you have now, or do you want like this life, you know, and this is the life that I want.
I'm really proud of you.
Thanks, Toots.
I didn't think that you would ever get to that point of being this mature. And,
Yeah.
and like putting it all behind you. I mean, that's really hard for anyone, but just, I mean, I'm just really proud of you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, you inspired me to this, so you know, you could take some credit for it.
No, I'm not taking credit for anything. You did all the hard work. Okay, well, anything else you want to say about the trip? I don't think I have anything else to add, but it was just great. Everyone should do it if you have the ability to, if you have childcare. We're really lucky where my mom is retired. She lives within 10 minutes of us. She's like a second mom to our kids. So we're really fortunate. We know that a lot of people don't have that option of family or anyone to watch kids. And so you don't have the choice, unfortunately. But if you do have the opportunity and the financial means, definitely like you 10 out of 10 recommend. And we're going to continue to do it. And I think make it a priority at least once a year to do something, just you and I.
Yeah, and I mean, even for people who may not have the financial means to do something like a Mexico or Europe or some sort of extravagant type trip, like, we saved for this trip, right? Like, this isn't something that's just on a whim or anything. We're not like these super wealthy people or anything like that. And you know, we save for it and we plan.
And we use like a certificate for our flight, and and
we look for deals down there and stuff, and you know. But even if you don't have the means to do something like that, like try and do something like a staycation somewhere or like fly one state over, you know, so like you're not in the place where you live, you know, like something small like that. Like you can get a cheap flight to go like a state over and then stay in like a hotel there. Or like, you know, it just is so beneficial for a relationship. Like you're just with each other. You're relying on each other. You're experiencing everything with each other. It's uninterrupted. You know, it was just amazing.
Yeah. Well, and we said this before, but it's just so easy to be like, oh, like we do have the money to do something, but like our money would be better spent on putting away for our kids' college. And like those things are important. I'm not saying that they're not, but like you just have to find that right balance. I feel like for so many years we just kind of lived in like this scarcity mindset, you know, when money was tighter and like things like that. But it's like because we didn't take care of our relationship, we got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of things like, yes, your drinking was like a big part of that. That wasn't the only problem that we had in our marriage. There were so many other problems that we had that we just ignored and we didn't prioritize. And even if like, I don't know what would have had, no, there's no way of knowing, but like, who knows how things could have been different had we prioritized our relationship more early on before your drinking became a problem. Your drinking really didn't become a problem until, you know, a couple years ago. And then it quickly spiraled out of control. It's not like he's been dealing with like this problem for like 10 years or something. Like, and who knows, like maybe it still would have turned out the same, maybe not. But like, I know in my gut, like we didn't do enough to take care of our relationship when we could have.
Yeah, I think things would have turned out differently if we prioritized our relationship in these ways. You know, if we did like the fair play method and like split the division of household labor and everything, you know, 50-50. And then we prioritize our relationship by like going on more dates or going on like a trip together. I think things would have turned out much, much differently.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame the bad decisions that I made with drinking and everything like on us not doing those things. But I think that really could have helped like everything.
I think it contributed. And then, there's just a lot of factors. It's never in life. There's never just like one thing that causes like a problem, you know, like there's a lot of things that cause like marital issues or divorce or drinking excessively. Like there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's not just like one reason. So anyway, definitely recommend, take care of your relationship. Don't wait until the season of life is over. That's another thing I've realized is that the season of life is never over. There's always something. Things, our kids are older and things are easier, but they're also harder in different ways. And it's like, if you wait for the perfect moment, the perfect time, like that's never going to happen.
And
Be
to
waiting
those
forever.
of you that don't subscribe to the season of life stuff, like me, like change, make that change, you know? Like if something is like going in your life, it's like that you don't like change it, you know? It's a very reductive way of viewing at it.
Yeah, it's obviously very complex and everyone's situation is so unique. So it's very difficult to talk about, but like you just have to prioritize your relationship. You absolutely have to.
A lot of y'all say if he wanted to, he would. So I think that applies to anybody, right? If you wanted to, you would.
Yeah,
so
it's true, even in small ways. So, and we're not experts. We're not relationship experts by any means. We've just learned a lot, I feel like, and we're not perfect. We still struggle. Even coming home, it was just like immediately, as soon as we came home, the girls woke up this morning, and it's just like you're thrown right back into it, you know.
Welcome back, bitch.
And I could feel us like losing that connection a little bit, and it's like, wow, we just need to like ground ourselves and like not lose it again. Like we need to like, and that's why I came up and like hugged you, you know, and the chaos in the morning, I just came up and like hugged Cody and gave him a big long hug, because it's like, okay, we're right back in it now. What are we going to do to maintain like that connection? Like it's really hard, and it's easy to get back into bad habits, and it's just like but you have to just like keep bringing yourself back.
Yeah. And, you know, I think just enjoying that trip together and that time, it brought us so much closer. Yeah. That like we'll be able to carry that. And I think that will make us like better parents, better partners, you know, better everything like in our life. You know, I'm not saying this like heals and cures everything, but you know, the benefits of like just doing something like that, like taking time even for yourself, you know, is just a massive thing. So
yeah.
But yeah, our kids don't give a shit.
No.
That
no.
We're struggling today. They're like, all right, you motherfuckers, like
they do not care.
Welcome back, but I'm not going to change my behavior for you.
Yeah, no. Okay. Well, the other thing that we wanted to talk about, I guess, on the episode, I don't know how long, it's already been like 40 minutes, I think. It's about the podcast. I guess we have an announcement that we want to make. And got to tease it.
And then just cut.
Yeah.
Then just cut it, you know.
Next week on. I didn't sign up for this. You got to just stay tuned next week. I'm just kidding. I don't
belabor this point for
like we can just cut it, and we can actually just cut this episode into 2-part series, and we'll give me 2 weeks worth of podcast. So that I don't know. No, I've been thinking a lot about this, and it's really hard. It's really hard. Like I don't even want to say it but I've wanted to for a long time, and then I'll be like, no, like I could do it. But I am going to put the podcast on pause. I'm going to pause the podcast indefinitely. I don't know how long. I want to say, you know, to the end of the year, maybe through January. I love recording. Even just like us talking right now, I like caught myself thinking, maybe I don't need to like say anything. Maybe, like this is fun. Like this is fun, like sitting down with Cody and chatting. Like I love chatting and just like talking about nothing, but also talking about everything, important things at the same time. I can just keep doing it. I can keep going. Like, but there's so much work that goes into podcasting that I knew it was a lot before I signed up for it. That's one thing I did sign up for was knowing, well, I knew it was going to be a lot of work because everyone said that. I knew it was going to be a lot of work. But I didn't realize how much work. Even episodes that are just my solo episodes where I'm coming on here chatting. It's like, oh, that's not very hard. Just like turn on the mic and like the camera and just like start recording and then like publish the episodes. Like not that hard. It's like, it actually is. You can't just come on a podcast and just like talk about nothing. And I feel like I do that a lot. And sometimes I'll listen back to the episodes and I am like, I am not like, this is not that it's a waste of time, but it's like, you can just, I just know I'm not showing up in the way that I want to show up on this podcast. I'm not organized at all. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. When I have guests on the podcast, I feel myself scrambling, you know, the day, 2 days before, being like, oh shit, I don't have like my list of questions. I don't have my outline. I don't feel ready. I don't feel prepared. Like, and I don't want it to feel that way. Like when I'm interviewing some of these people, like I really want to hear what they have to say, but you have to prepare for that. And I don't feel like I've been preparing in the way that I want to and that I should be. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just that I have too much on my plate. Like I just have too many things on my plate right now.
Well, I think it's great that you recognize that. Like I support whatever decision you make with it. And I know it's not an easy decision. When we do sit here and talk, like it kind of feels like we could just do this. Right.
I know. I'm like, this isn't hard. This is great. People
we don't have
love
to edit
this.
it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
but even outside of like the editing, like there's the publishing. And I know I have like, I just hired, virtual assistant to help me with the podcast, but I don't make any money from this podcast. I'm not making any money. I'm spending money because I do pay someone to balance the audio. And I probably don't need to do that. I could probably just do it, right? Like the audio is great. Like we have great mics. Like it's fine. So I probably don't even need to pay them. But like, and then I have a virtual assistant now that's helping me with some of my podcast clips. But like, there's so much more that goes into it. And it's just like, it's just getting to the point where I'm like, I need to take a break. I'm at least going to take a break through the end of the year and regroup. And if I can have a better system and process, like I want to start it back up. But I'm just dragging. And I have a lot going on with like my creator account, which I absolutely love. Connecting with you guys every day. The community on this podcast is very small. I wanted it to be like an extension of social media, and it is, but it's turning out to just be a lot more work, and I'm finding myself extremely burned out. My mental health is not good. I don't feel like I'm showing up for my kids in the way that I want to. And so with all these things going on with, my business and just like everything else, it's like, I have to do less. And I think that's going to be like my motto going into 2025 is like, do less. I want to do less because I don't feel happy. I feel like it was attainable. Like I could do this stuff when I had split custody, when I didn't have the kids full time, because I had days where, multiple days in a row where I didn't have the kids. I didn't have like really those responsibilities. I don't have that now. And like, I'm not saying it can't be done, but like I need like a break so I can like regroup, strategize, and then like execute. And I feel like I can't do that because I'm just like in the thick of it, and I'm just like, my brain is just on overdrive all the time. So I don't feel like I have any clarity, if that makes sense. Like I feel like everything is just clouded. Decisions are clouded and everything I'm doing because I'm just moving too fast and there's just too many things going on. And I need to do less.
When I don't know if it's like this with all other people who do social media and stuff, but like, you guys have no idea how much time and effort and just like soul that Kaitlyn puts into all the stuff she does. Like you work so fucking hard.
I just want everything.
Like
I just want everything that I put out on social media and like in this podcast, I want it to be valuable to people. And so it takes a lot of like mental energy to be like, how do I make this piece of content like valuable to people? I want people to watch my vlogs and like get something out of it and not just be like, oh, this is just like a vlog. Like I want it to be meaningful. I want it to like do something to serve my community. And so a lot of mental energy goes into that, which I absolutely love, but I'm only one person, and I have some people that help me with certain things, but I'm still the captain steering the boat. I'm still the one that like is reaching out to guests. I'm still the one creating outlines. I'm still the one like finalizing the episode and editing it. And yeah, I could pay someone to do that, but like also it's like, is that really wise of me when this podcast doesn't make any money? Should I really be spending hundreds of dollars a month on this podcast when it doesn't make me any money? And I feel like I'm just like running on empty and just scrambling last minute every single week. I'm like, shit, I have to put out an episode. It's due today. What am I going to talk about? And like, I just don't want to operate that way. I don't want to operate that way.
Well, and I want to apologize to your follower from Canada who posted that she listens to the podcast. And
I know I feel bad. And I've told a couple people that like I thinking about putting it on pause, and it's heartbreaking because I know that there are some really like diehard people who listen every week, and that's hard because I know that, but it's just like I just need to, it's not for everything. It's just a pause. This is a pause. I could come back to it. I just need some time to like regroup and strategize and execute on that.
I think it's, I applaud that you put a lot of thought into this and you're doing what's best for you. And I think it'll help you show up in better ways in other things that you're doing.
That's what I'm hoping for, is I can just show up better and I can be happier, because I just like lately, I just haven't been feeling happy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like there's work that I'm doing that I know that I enjoy and that I love, but it's becoming a job, and it's just not serving me. And so I just need to have like I just need to figure out like a better like system and process. And you know, I have 3 huge things going on: my creator account, I have my business, my small business that like, you know, I am trying to grow, and then the podcast, and then also being a mom and showing up for my kids. And it's a lot. It's hard to like, you just feel like, I feel like the hardest part about this decision is that like, I just feel like a failure.
I don't think it means you're a failure. I think it means you have a lot of stuff going on and you only have so much time to do all the stuff that you're doing, you know, and you're not a machine.
I know. It's just sometimes it's just sometimes embarrassing to be like, you know, yeah, it's just like, I just feel like a failure. And I know that there's a lot of, there's actually more power in like taking pause and saying, hey, this isn't working, instead of just like white knuckling it like I normally do. You know, why don't we pause and figure it out and then resume at a later time that's better? And maybe it's never better, but like, it's just really hard. It's just really hard. Just like my type of personality is very much like, I don't know, I just don't want to be like viewed as a failure. I view myself as a failure, and I don't want other people to view me as like a failure, that I didn't make it work, or that like my ADHD is like a big thing for me right now too, is like, it's really hard for me to stay organized. And when you have a lot of things going on at the same time, it's just hard to stay organized. And I'm just becoming forgetful and making mistakes on certain things and having to redo things. And that's like one of my like really big challenges, is just like managing all that. And it's just hard.
I don't think anybody's going to view you as a failure. You're very
but I didn't make it a success, and I think that's what's hard.
You have other things that are successes. You know, like you're not failing in everything. Like it's not realistic to think that like everything is just going to like be highly profitable like right out the gate and easy. Like,
well, it's not even like that it's not profitable. Like my thing is that like, I'm not prepared every week. I'm scrambling last minute to come up with outlines, and I feel like it comes through on the, you know, the episode sometimes. And yeah, so it's just that. And it like, when I don't feel excited to like have an interview or like to get on the podcast, like I'm excited because I love doing it, but like you're also not excited because you're not prepared, you know, and you know that you're not going to show up in the way that you want to, you know. And it's not for lack of trying. It's just like every single day you just feel like you have to like constantly prioritize, like what's the highest priority thing to get done today. And the podcast is always like last, and then I'm just scrambling last minute and I get stressed out, and it's just like, yeah. So I don't know. I just need to regroup. I need to take some time off of it. I need to regroup and then come back if I do end up coming back. You know, I don't know if I ever will. Maybe I'll stop the podcast and be like, yeah, fuck that. Like, I'm never doing that again. You know, I do really love coming on here and chatting with you guys, but it's just been really hard lately, and I haven't been happy. So I need to figure out that first, I think.
I think it's good that you're willing to like, you know, look at that and like contemplate it. And I know it's hard for you, and I don't think anybody's going to think you're a failure. I think you're doing what's best for you and your mental health, and like, you know, like you're able to focus, you know, on fewer things and like apply yourself to fewer things rather than spreading yourself too thin and having it, you know, affect you in your other areas of your life or your business or your socials or whatever,
or just how I show up as a mom too.
Yeah, and a partner.
I just want to like slow down, like, and be present. I don't want to work nights. I don't want to be stressed out in the evenings anymore because I didn't get something done. And you know, like I want to be there for my kids and my partner and my life, and not just be constantly like going and going and going. Like I go from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed. I'm not taking care of myself, and so I got to figure it out. So that's what we're gonna do, even though it's really hard.
Do you feel the same relief that people feel when they put in their notice?
No.
Oh,
Feels different because I feel like when you put in your notice at a job, like, I mean, I don't know, assuming that's like a job that like you don't like, it feels kind of good, but like this is, I like doing this. It's just that I don't have enough time in the day, and I'm only one person, and I need to figure out how I can do it where it's not costing me, $500 a month.
Yeah.
Like it's, I can hire people to edit and do this, and I can have a VA to do my outreach and create my outline. It's like, but I don't know. It's just not in the cards for me right now. That's okay.
Hey, maybe if people like just hearing us bullshit about absolutely nothing, we can get on here and just put out a product that is not edited.
But even the promoting a podcast, the social clips that you have to create, and like getting on there and talk. There's so many things where I'm like, I should be getting on stories and talking to my audience every single week about what the episode is, instead of just like reposting like a reel and being like, listen, like I really should be like selling it. I should be marketing it better and different, but like I can't because I have like no capacity. And so it's not even just like, I mean, the easiest part kind of is just like, especially with just like you and me or like solos, the easiest part is getting on and talking. The hardest part is like the editing and then like the social clips and making things engaging. And like, there's all these fancy podcasts that have like, I mean, teams behind them that are creating like these very engaging social clips. And like, I don't have the capacity to do that. And, a lot of my like reels, like don't do very well on the podcast. And like, I get it, I'm a small like podcast, whatever. The hardest part, I think, is the promotion, is marketing it.
Yeah, we have to imagine people with like wildly successful podcasts, like their entire job is like focused on the production of this podcast.
Yeah, and like SEO and like doing all those things. And it's like, I've tried getting on with, podcasts, like podcast production companies, where it's actually like produced by a company. And I, haven't been successful in that. And so, yeah, it's all me that's promoting it. And they're in the sea of millions of podcasts and videos. Like it's just hard. And I just don't have the capacity to do it. But yeah, the promotion and marketing is definitely the hardest part of the podcast, in my opinion. Yeah. So I know I just rambled a lot, said a lot of things, just very all over the place. So, okay, well, I guess we'll wrap it up and we'll see you when we see you. Go and follow me on social if you're not, and that's where you can catch me.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Hey, I was your first podcast, and then maybe
you were my very first podcast guest when we were co-parenting. We weren't together.
I'm like, I'm going to show her how great I am, and I'm going to get her back.
Look at you now. That was almost a year ago, too. I started in January last year, so it's been 11 months. So,
wow.
All right. Well, we will see you when we see you.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.